Hello, I'm Scott Bogey here with Dilano Taylor ahead of his fight against Hanison Ferreira at the X XFC 51. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, pretty good. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. And how are you feeling ahead of this upcoming fight?
As in, like, about the fight or me in the overall, like, feeling? You
Just
mean?
both.
Oh, I feel great, tremendous as always. About the fight, feel pretty good about the fight.
And how do you see this fight playing out? Do you feel like it's going to be a more of a standing trading battle, or do you feel like it's going to move into that wrestling kind of nature?
I think once I put my hands on him, he's gonna try to wrestle me, and he's gonna find out that was a bad idea.
And how has the training camp been with? Because obviously you're at Killcliff FC, you're getting training with the best fighters in the game. How has that helped improve your game?
Um, I've been at Cliff FC for about almost 5 years, I think. Maybe longer or less. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I have to think back. But I think my time over here has definitely elevated my game to a point where I'm confident going in there and fighting anybody at any given time because I'm training with the best in the world at all times. It's a
Like
completely different mindset when you're training with guys with like-minded goals as you. So it kind of drives you to be hungrier to want more.
yeah, exactly. Because obviously you have got those UFC fighters like Brendan Allen and that in there, which gives you that top level experience, and you'll be able to see what they're doing to be able to improve that in your own game.
Hmm? Sir.
And how do you feel like with this event? Also, there is a lot of big fighters on this event. You have the main event, which is two guys who used to be in the UFC. You have also yourself, who has been with the top organizations, Titan SC, PFL. Do you feel like having all these big names on this show just elevates it even more?
Yeah, I think it puts more eyes and draw a bigger pool and crowd towards the fighters on the card. And I think this fight will be the fight that pushes me going to the UFC. That's what I think personally. From just watching and seeing who's on the card, I think that's what's gonna happen.
Exactly. There's definitely going to be a lot more eyes on this event. And in your last fight, it was against Jordan Mean, and it was the first round stoppage. How do you feel like that fight went?
I feel like my fight against Jordan Mean was overall very dominant in that first round. I really tried to get him up out of there a lot sooner in that first round, but he was a lot tougher than I thought initially. And then you know, fight just went the way it went. But I thought it was just gonna be finished regardless in the first or the second round.
And was there anything that he did that surprised you in that fight?
Jordan Means?
Yeah.
Um, the only thing he did that surprised me was show up. I've had a lot not show up, so yeah.
And obviously, before that, you were part of the PFL brand. How was fighting for the PFL?
Oh man, the PFL fighting for the PFL was great. I have no bad things to say about them. They were a great organization for me to fight for. They honestly allowed me to have a good platform to build my name, showcase my skills, and really get my face out there. I fought a lot of tough dudes. I feel like I got worlds of experience from there, and I got to bring my boy Ippo with me, and thank God, they were able to see what he was capable of and want to bring him in as well. So it was actually, a blessing to be able to do that, like gain that experience and bring my guys with me, and they were blessed with opportunities to do certain things that they were already doing the work for, but because they got to see me, they were able to get more and done.
And how do you feel like with the PFL schedule? Obviously, you have that regular season, so you have those two fights, and then you all have the playoffs and the World Championship already set. Do you feel like having that schedule helps fighters because they know exactly when the next fight is going to be?
Um, yes and no. The PFL schedule, yeah, it gives you like it lets you know when you're gonna fight next. That's great, but people don't recognize how difficult that roster is, that schedule is. That schedule is so difficult because you think that you'll have enough time to be ready for the next fight, but God forbid you get injured or hurt in that first fight. That really will set the tone for the rest of the fights throughout the season. It's not like you're fighting back to back in the same night because I feel like if you're fighting
Yeah.
back to back in the night, you still got that adrenaline pump. And you can kind of just work through it. But when it's all right, so I fought. oh man, I'm hurt. I'm going to therapy. I'm finally recovering. Boom, got to fight again. There's not much adrenaline going. I'm just jumping into this fight, knowing that I'm not 100%, knowing I was training and still beating down my body while it was, still not at 100. I think it makes it that much more difficult. And a lot of people don't recognize that.
Yeah, exactly. I know what you mean. Here in the UK, we have got a promotion and they do a prize fighter tournament where you do fight twice in one night. And one of the guys said that he broke his thumb in the first fight, but it was just the adrenaline just kept him going. Whereas after, obviously with the PFL schedule, you would have to get that checked out, have time to get that to heal. Do you feel like the PFL is starting to challenge the UFC in terms of the strength competition?
Um, I think so. I think the PFL is starting to make a name for themselves and really build it up the right way, and give themselves that recognition that they feel like they deserve. But they still have some more time to develop before they can
Yeah.
be on the UFC level status, in my opinion, in my humblest opinion, from what I'm watching.
And before with the PFL, you were with Titan FC. How was that experience? You were able to clinch the title while you were there.
Yeah, my experience in Titan FC was great. I had a really good run defending my belt after I got it, and I think Titan FC was a really great organization. It was one of those organizations to really help me understand that a lot of these guys from these regional organizations do become champions. Like Bilal Muhammad was a Titan FC champion, and now he's
Yeah.
a UFC champion. Jason Jackson was a Titan FC champion, and he was the Bellator champion. So when I see these guys, oh, also Dan Ige, Titan FC champion, got to the UFC, and he's making a really good run currently right now. I think he's coming off of a loss, but he took the fight on a day's notice, and he still fought his ass off, and that was freaking amazing. So when I see these things like that, it just gives me more and more confidence, and it allows me and shows me that I'm on the right path and that I'm following the right blueprint. Best
And
word I could put.
and could you do something like what Dan Ige did? Less than a day's notice, step in into that octagon and get that. We'll try and get that victory.
Yeah. So what would you say?
Like, could you do like less than a day's notice, get into that
Yeah.
octagon?
Yes. Literally.
And how do you, what is the main difference between an organization like Titan FC and one of the bigger organizations like PFL and the UFC?
Um, Titan FC is just on a smaller scale. I mean, it doesn't have the biggest pool of fighters. Obviously, they're not paying as much as the
Yeah.
UFC, but organizations like that, the regional ones, they're just good feeder shows. They give you good matchups. You get to fight in a home crowd. Sometimes, most of the cases, you get to fight at home, and you get to see your people. And your people get to see you, and it's different. Like it's a different type of energy when you have your whole crowd behind you. Like China FC was mainly in Florida. I live in Florida, so all my fights were here for a big portion of that time. So a lot of the people would just come through like, "Oh my God, Delano, Postman, this is this." So this is completely different. Like when you get to a big organization, it's kind of hard to get certain people to come out, especially like when people have their families, they have this, they have that, it's difficult. But um, I'm grateful to have had that experience with Titan FC to see what it's like to have a bigger crowd of your people in there, selling
Yeah,
out venues. It's very nice.
exactly. And I understand what you mean having the crowd behind you. It can just pick you up when you are maybe not having the best start in the fight. That was evident in the show that I was at just yesterday. The guy lost the first round and was losing the first half of round two. However, the crowd got behind him and he started to got the victory that way.
Yep.
What was your reaction when you found out that the PFL were interested in you?
My reaction when I found out the PFL was interested in me was that it was meant to happen. And I say that because right after I defended my belt for Titan FC, like literally that same night, my one of my closest friends, like older brother, he had just passed, Jordan Young, who was also in PFL, and he was telling me like literally, I'm telling you like literally like a week before, D, like the PFL's for you. I think after this fight, you get signed to the PFL. They hit you up, they call you this and this, and he called it like right, like he died the same night I
Yeah,
fought my belt for Titan FC, and I thought that was insane to me. And he was always saying like, "Yeah, bro, I think this is the tournament platform that will help you build your name and you know help you generate the career that you want currently. He wasn't wrong. He was completely right. Like they gave me the starting point. They gave me everything that I needed to gain the world of experience that I have now at such a young age. I'm only 27. At 25, I was fighting for a world championship, and that was literally a year after I defended my belt for Titan FC. I had fought 6 fights that year, so it was like, wow, this is crazy.
And so, firstly, I'm sorry for the loss. And how was that moment when you were able to get that victory and get the title around your waist?
Oh man, that moment was very surreal. I knew I had worked hard for it, very, very hard for it. That moment for me was a little bit more than I thought because I knew what was riding on that fight. I knew what was riding on that win. And the opponent I had, Marcus Edwards, he came to fight, and he's doing very well right now himself. Actually, I believe he is in. I think he's doing like a couple bare knuckle fights. He has a good record right now as well. That guy's no joke. That guy's no slouch. That guy was a tough guy. That was probably the most beat up and most damage I've been after a fight. And that was 5 rounds. It was like a 5 round for war. The guy hit so hard. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And
But after that, the win was much more gratifying because I went through that. I experienced it. I didn't run away. I didn't shy away from the fight. Like I stayed there and I earned it. Very gratifying.
and like you're saying, you are relatively young in the sport, 27 years old, and you have been able to get 16 fights under your belt. How how do you feel like that experience just helps you improve overall?
Um, Not the 16 fights per se, but who I fought within the 16 fights. Absolutely, people I fought, the faces I've seen, the skills I've seen, the mentality that I've had to develop to fight certain dudes. I think the that's what really put it together for me. Because you have guys who have very little fights MMA wise, but they do so well, and you have guys who fight mad fights and they just don't do so well. And I think I'm one of those guys who's fought very little fights and have done very well. So I think for me, it's the quality of the fights versus the quantity of the fights.
And what was it that got you into the MMA world?
Oh man, I wrestled. Actually, it's funny. I've been an athlete for a big portion of my life, and I wrestled in high school. And I remember, like, after I was done wrestling in high school, I needed more. Like, I felt like I didn't have enough, and I decided, you know what? Let me see what this MMA thing's about because on my wrestling team there was this kid who wrestled with me. His name was Trent, and his grandfather was like, "Hey, you should try out this jujitsu. My boy Trent's doing it. This and this. Like, you guys would be so good. I think you guys would translate so well." And at the time I had no money, so still in high school, like not a rich kid, like pretty poor. So I'm like, oh, okay, I hear you, I hear you, I hear you. And then when I graduated, I got me a job, and I decided to just check the gym out, checked it out, the free trial, and did all the classes. Like, you know what, this is the gym I want to go to. Let me stick here, and I've been at that gym for a while. Since I've been at that gym since I left high school, coaching, training, still to this day.
And like you're saying, you're coaching and you're training. How is it with the coaching aspect? Were you able to find out new things you may not have understood as a fighter?
Absolutely. Coaching actually opened my eyes to a lot of mistakes that I was making technically when it came to positioning, when it came to overall the way I was using techniques. Like I was using them completely one dimensional and sometimes in a lot of the cases wrong. Coaching actually opened my eyes to see that I was doing those things wrong and helped me really correct those mistakes just by showing it on like individuals, like whether it was a kid or an adult. It kind of helped me really recognize like, yo, all right, well that's wrong. Do this here, and then I make those adjustments for myself, and I made it significantly better when I'm using it. So absolutely.
And what would you say so far to date has been your trickiest fight?
My trickiest fight?
Yeah.
Oh, good question. I think my trickiest fight was when I fought Sadabu in the PFL finals. Um, I had a lot going on that fight for sure. Like he was the trickiest guy I'd fight. And it's funny because now if I were to fight him, I don't think he would be as tricky because obviously I understand the blueprint, I understand how it goes now. But in that moment, he just seemed like he was the trickiest fighter that I ever had to deal with in that moment. When in actuality, he really wasn't. You know.
Yeah.
But now that I see it, it's like okay, all right, cool. I think now it would be a different fight if I fought him because I'm a completely different fighter now. Better skill
Ex-
set, sharper, smarter.
yeah, exactly. And I wish you the best of luck for this fight. Thank you for coming on. I'd like you have the final word. Anything else you're wanting to add? Anyone you're wanting to shout out?
Only thing I want to say is, hey guys, make sure you tune in and watch this fade and delivery.
That was great. Thank you for coming on.
All right, thank you.